alis kung hindi naman kailangan lumabas. Kinakamusta rin po natin ang mga nanonood sa atin sa pamamagitan ng 1PH on Signal TV. Lalong-lalo na po doon sa mga emergency rooms, mga clinics, mga waiting rooms ng ospital. Kamusta po kayong lahat dyan? And of course, sa mga tao pong nanonood sa atin sa pamamagitan ng live stream sa Facebook ng Power and Play o di kaya ng Radyo 5 o ng 1PH and of course sa Noli Iyala YouTube channel. Marami po tayong magiging paksa ngayong araw na to as usual at marami tayong bisita na makakapanayam mamaya-maya. Kasama na po dyan si Coach Tab Baldwin ng Samahang Basketball ng Pilipinas tungkol sa Gilas Camp na ginaganap po dyan sa Calamba. Makakasama din po natin ang ating Jiu-Jitsu champion sa patuloy na serye ng ating Women's Empowerment sa International Women's Month, si Meggie Ochoa. Mamaya po yan, ha? And yung kariretiro lamang na PBA All-Star at naging kampiyon sa UAP at sa PBA si JC Intal. Atin po siyang makakausap mamaya din po at pag-uusapan niya ang kanyang desisyon na mag-retiro. Mamaya din po ay ating makakapanayam ang PBA Legend na ngayon po ay isang sikat na podcaster, the former PBA MVP, Major Pain, Eric Menk. Pero syempre, sa pagsisimula po ng ating palatuntunan, ating pong pinupulsuhan ng isang topic sa larangan po ng palakasan. Alam niyo po ngayon, ang pinag-uusapan ay yung napipintong pagsisimula ng PBA 3x3. In fact, nagkaroon na po ng mga koponan na nag-sumite ng kanilang mga lineup at pati po yung mga hindi nasali sa regular PBA draft ay ngayon po ay naisama na doon sa PBA 3x3. Nagkaroon din po ng balita na yung ating koponan na Chooks TM na lumahok po doon sa Doha Masters ay muntik na makapasok. Although nanalo tayo sa Doha, yung koponan ng Doha, yung host team, pero minalas po tayo sa quotient kaya hindi tayo nakapasok sa susunod na round. But nonetheless, ang basketball po, ang kaisa-isang team sport na maaaring or at least meron pang tsansa na makapasok sa Olimpiada. Ang ating pong 3x3 team ay qualified dun sa FIBA 3x3 Olympic Qualifying Tournament. Kaya po ang ating pupulsuhan ngayon, sa larangan po ng international basketball, mas dapat bang tumutok ang Pilipinas sa 3x3? Ngayon na alam natin na meron tayong laban dyan, nakita natin na lumalaban ang ating mga bata dahil bagamat alam natin malaking bahagi pa rin ang hit o ang katangkaran, meron pa rin pong ibang factors pagdating sa 3x3. So again, ulitin ko po ang ating pupulsuhan. Sa larangan ng international basketball, mas dapat bang tumutok ang Pilipinas sa 3x3? Kung gusto niyo pong makisama sa ating talakayan, mag-text lamang sa 0949-691-4956 o di kaya ay mag-post sa aming Facebook page, Power and Play with Com Noli Iyala o sa Radyo 5 92.3 News FM. Alright, marami pa po tayong mga balita at of course, ito po huling linggo, napakaraming development sa larangan ng sports at kayo po ay ating bibigyan kayo ng mabilis lamang na buod na mga naganap sa larangan ng palakasan sa ating headline sports highlights. Noong linggo, ang ating pride sa women's basketball na si Jack Aninam ay pinagpatuloy ang kanyang undefeated streak sa Taiwan matapos pangunahan ng kanyang koponan na Shisen University sa kampyonato sa University Basketball Association. 96 wins, mga kaibigan. 96 wins, walang talo mula noong nasa UAAP pa si Amimam. Mantakin niyo po yan, 96 hanggang ngayon hindi pa siya nakakaramdam ng talo. Noong Lunes naman, isang malungkot na balita. Pumanaw sa edad na 86 ang Hall of Famer at isa sa 50 greatest players of the NBA, si Elgin Baylor. Natural causes daw ang ikinamatay ng Lakers legend na si The Big E. Noong Miyerkules naman, nilinaw mismo ni Commissioner Willie Marshall na walang ban ang PBA kay Bobby Ray Parks Jr. yung nga lang, ayon sa mga balita, mukhang walang team din ang nagnanais na kumuha sa kanya. At dahil dyan, ika nga ni Dean Tinito Henson, stalemate si Parks dahil wala siyang paglalaruan kahit sa ibang bansa. Noong Webes, good sign para sa ipagpapatuloy ng Tokyo Olympics dahil sinindihan na ang Olympic torch sa Japan. Ang lighting of the torch na ito ay bahagi ng torch relay na siyang tradisyon at simbolo ng pagsisimula ng Olympics. At noong Webes, 26 na rookies ang naging unrestricted free agents o sa ibang salita, yung mga rookie na na-draft pero hindi naman nabigyan ng offer ng kanilang mga koponan. At itong Biyernes, ng madaling araw, nagkagulo ang mundo ng basketball dahil sa NBA trade deadline. Aaron Gordon to Denver Nuggets, Nikola Vucevic sa Chicago Bulls, Rajon Rondo to the LA Clippers, at marami pang iba. Mamaya-maya lamang, pag-uusapan natin lahat ng yan. Yan po ang ating sports highlights ngayong linggong ito. And of course, yan po mga balitang yan ay makakasama sa ating paghimay sa pamamagitan ng ating paboritong segment, yung pong Fast Take. At ngayon po makakasama na natin ang ating mga fast takers. Walang iba kung hindi ang ESPN5 friends natin sa media, si Eros Villanueva at si Philip Patel. Magandang umaga, Eros and Philip. Welcome back to the show.
Good morning, Good morning.
Thank you so much for joining us. Alam ko na everybody staying home, ingat kayo, ang daming kaso. So I really wish you all the best of health dahil talagang napakahirap ng ating panahon. Pero siyempre, patuloy ang ating paghimay ng mga issues. Like I mentioned dito sa Fast Take, ang inyong opinion ang mahalaga. Bato-bato sa langit, tamaan, huwag magagalit. At of course, walang tama, walang mali dito sa Fast Take. So let's begin, Eros and Philip. Immediately, alam naman natin ang balitang si Jack Amimam ay patuloy na nagbibigay ng karangalan, hindi lamang para sa kanyang sarili, kundi para sa bansa, na patuloy ang magandang ipinapakita doon sa Taiwan. Ang tanong sa ating unang Fast Take, what is the ceiling for Jack Amimam? Ano ang dapat na siguro sundin niya na hakbang sa kanyang basketball career? I'll begin with you first, Eros. You have 1 minute. Go!
First, we have to assess yung performance doon sa UVA compared to the last stint with the National University in the UAAP season 83. The scoring improved. She was better. She was more comfortable in the low post. Her rebounding was sustained yung same level of rebounding, better than protection, and most importantly, yung free throw shooting niya, she improved it by 20% on the same number of, basically the same number of attempts and the same number of games. Doon pa na makita po natin na sustained yung level of development niya. So it's hard to put a cap or a ceiling or to completely determine Jack Amimam's ceiling. So at our most optimistic projections, he can be a WNBA player because she's 22, she's 6'5", she's easily one of the tallest players already in the WNBA. It all depends siguro on her hard work and determination, which certainly she has. And, you know, I guess at the end of it all, she can be the greatest Filipino basketball player ever.
If not already, tama, Eros?
Yes, absolutely.
The way that she has played, of course, there have been many good players that have come before her, pero siyempre, iba pa rin yung kanyang ipinapakita. Same issue, Philip. Ano kaya ang ceiling ni Jack Amimam or ano ang susunod na hakbang sa kanyang basketball career? 1 minute, Philip, go!
First of all, congrats kay Jack Amimam na tinapos sa kanyang stellar collegiate career at 96-0 with the NU Lady Bulldogs and yung kanyang school sa Taiwan. Sa tingin ko na next step na i-explore pa ang options dito sa Oceania region, particularly sa Australia or sa New Zealand na may natatag ng Women's Basketball League. Mas viable din naman yan para sa kanyang safety na maglaro sa Australia or sa New Zealand kaysa mag-i-import dito sa mga various leagues sa Southeast Asia dahil mababa ang kaso ng COVID-19 doon kay kukumpara sa ating region. Mahirap din naman pakawalan ng opportunity na makatrain at makalaro with some of the best women's basketball players in the world. Invaluable ang makuha niya experience dahil dito, and in the bigger picture ay makakatulong pa ito sa Gilas Pilipinas Women's Squad para patuloy na umangat. Ngunit baka maging malaking deciding factor ang kanyang pagmamaster sa Taiwan at baka dahil maging dahilan ito na magstay siya doon for the time being.
Very well said, Philip. Alam natin na napakaraming opportunities ngayon sa international basketball. Yung only thing, my only take is, Jack is a gym. We certainly hope na makahanap siya ng magandang lugar para lalo pang palaguin niya ang kanyang basketball career. Alright, let's go for second issue of the day. Alam natin na ngayon ang Gilas Pilipinas ay nandun sa Kalamba in a training bubble na ginagawa nila. And most, if not all, of the players there ay puro mga cadets, mga kabataan. Ano ang inyong expectations para sa napakabatang kupunan ng Gilas Pilipinas moving forward, lalong-lalo na papasok ng FIBA Asia Cup qualifiers? I'll begin with you, Philip. 1 minute. Go!
Ang pinaka-expectation ko sa bawat laro ng Gilas Pilipinas Cadet Squad ay magiging compelling ang mga bawat laban nila. May it be sa FIBA Asia Cup qualifiers bubble sa Clark, FIBA OQT sa Serbia, or sa FIBA Asia Cup mismo sa Indonesia. Nakita na natin ang pagsabak nila sa mga FIBA competitions at nakikita natin ang trait na gustong-gusto na talaga nating masilayan sa basketball, yung puso. Under Coach Joe Chico, ang kanyang veteran coaching staff and program director Tab Baldwin, kita-kita dito ang pagiging coachable ng mga batang to, sumusunod sa dikta ng coach mula sa sidelines at hindi sila sumusuko basta-basta. Dahil dito mga luman o matalo ay laging manonood kayo from the edge of your seat dahil alam mo hindi sila tinatamad at hindi sila sumusuko. Nasa tingin ko ay kailangan pa rin nating mentality na ngayon habang hinaharap natin ang napakalaking challenge ng COVID-19 sa ating bansa.
Very good. Well, alam natin yan na itong kupunan na to, batang-bata, a lot of energy, yung nga, gilas, kaya marami din ang puso. Same issue para sa iyo, Eros. Ano ang expectation mo para sa napakabatang kupunan ng Gilas Pilipinas? 1 minute, go! Kaya wala tayong volume ni Eros, ulitin natin. Ha? Let's try. Okay, go ahead, Eros, go!
Okay. Commonly, there's going to be a lot of teaching involved for this young Gilas group. This is the youngest Gilas group ever formed under Coach Tab Baldwin. So there has to be a lot of patience then when it comes to this group. But certainly, they're going to be so much better in time. A lot of good habits will be instilled by Coach Tab and his coaching staff. And then marami rin po mga bad habits na if-face out moving forward. So that's going to be very, very good for their careers. Meron na yung understanding and yung feel for the nuances of the game. It's going to be so much better. Hindi po magiging maganda siguro yung results all the time. Siguro they're going to be competitive doon sa FIBA Asia Cup qualifiers or doon sa mismo FIBA Asia Cup. But against the likes of number 5 Serbia or the number 19 Dominican Republic in the Olympic qualifying tournament, that's going to be, quite a stretch to be competitive or to win a couple of games. But we have to remember that SPP is playing the long game. They look at the bigger picture. And if these kids are able to get past these growing pains, there's going to be a lot of success moving forward.
I totally agree with that. This is a long-term plan. This is a long-term program. Ang akin lang hiling, sana ang expectation ko on my part is wag nilang sayangin. Maging pasensyoso sila. Kung hindi rin naman nila gagamitin itong mga cadets nito in the future, masasayang lang ang ginagawa nilang pag-iensayo in the present. Alright, let's go to our third and final take of the day. Alam naman natin, katatapos lamang ng NBA trade deadline. Ako, nagkagulo ang mundo ng basketball. Ang daming nangyari. Kaya naman ang tanong, sino ang biggest winner at biggest loser sa nakaraang NBA trade deadline? I'll begin with you, Eros. 1 minute. Go!
The biggest winners for me have to be the Miami Heat because in a span of 1 week po, including yesterday's trade deadline, we were able to turn Myers Leonard, Kelly Olynyk, Mo Harkless, and Avery Bradley into Victor Oladipo, Nemanja Bjelica, and Trevor Ariza. Victor Oladipo, at his peak, he is an all-star player who is elite on both ends of the floor. Si Bjelica po, medyo mababa yung 3-point shooting niya this year, pero in his past 5 seasons, he shot 39% from the 3-point line. And then si Ariza naman, he is the type of forward na pwede mong ibato kina kina Kevin Durant or kina Giannis Antetokounmpo or sino pang elite wing in the playoffs. Siguro para sa akin ang magiging biggest loser ay yung Houston Rockets kasi nawala nila si James Harden, nawala nila si Oladipo, nawala nila si Caris LeVert, nawala nila si Jarrett Allen for a bunch of role players and late first rounders na hindi naman magiging superstar moving forward. Those have to be the worst series of deals in NBA history.
Yeah. Very, very well said. Ang dami talagang nagpalitan na hindi natin makikita kung ano yung rational. But again, this is long-term planning. Same issue, Philip. Sino ang biggest winner and loser sa nakaraang NBA trade deadline? 1 minute, Philip. Go!
Ang nakikita ng biggest winner ng trade deadline ay ang Denver Nuggets. Napalitan nila ang puwang na iniwan ni Jeremy Grant at Mason Plumlee ng kinuha sa pagkuha nila kay Aaron Gordon at JaVale McGee. Si Gordon ay isang big swing man na very athletic at able defender naman na pwede ipantapat sa malalaking swing sa West tulad ni LeBron James at Kawhi Leonard. Isa pa dito si JaVale McGee na nagdadala ng championship experience sa kanyang pagbabalik sa Denver na ngayon ay isang competent backup ni Nikola Jokic. Ang biggest loser naman sa aking palagay ay ang mga dismayadong fans ng Boston Celtics. Ang Celtics ay 8 seed ngayon at nangangailangan ng makakatulong sa team upang umangat mula sa mediocrity. Heading to the deadline, sobrang laki na expectations ng fans nila na mapupunta sa kanila si Aaron Gordon sa tulong ng kanilang traded player exception. Pero hindi ito nangyari dahil lang napunta sa Celtics ay si Evan Fournier na teammate ni Gordon. Sa tingin ko ay sa off-season na lang ang punteriya ni Danny Ainge para mag-retool ng kanilang roster. Better luck next time for Banner 18.
Love it! I love it, Philip. Ako, alam mo naman, I'm a Philly fan, so I have no love lost for Boston. I wish them all the best, pero walang mangyayari. Fournier, they needed a bench, they needed defense. Fournier doesn't bring it. And of course, akin, the biggest winner are the fans. This was a terrific time. Everybody stayed up for it. At kahit pa paano nakakuha tayo ng magandang fireworks just before the NBA trade deadline. Eros, Philip, always a pleasure to have you with us. Stay safe, and we'll see you around.
Thank you, Bob. Stay safe, Bob.
Thank you, Kong. Stay safe.
Yan po mga kaibigan natin, mga kaibigan mula sa ESPN5, si Eros Villanueva at si Philip Pangkel. Yan ang mga magagaling young sports journalists na talagang alam nila yung kanilang stuff. Talagang they understand the game, they understand the issues, and they work hard on their trade. Alright mga kaibigan, tuloy-tuloy po tayo sa Power and Play sa oras po ng 8:23. Makakasama po natin ngayon at this time ay isa kong kaibigan. Somebody that I've worked with all the teams, of course, when I was in the PBA, and of course, after the PBA. He is a PBA legend, a former MVP, a champion in the PBA, and now he is an outspoken podcaster. Walang iba kundi si Major Pain, Eric Major. Good morning, Eric.
Thanks for having me on this morning.
My goodness, it's good to see you, Eric. You're as usual. You look dapper. You look fit. You look great. You know, one of the reasons why I've been wanting to get you on the show is because your Twitter feed has been lit. It has been rocking. You know, a lot of people have, of course, retweeted all of the things that you've been putting out there, and it's just great to hear it from somebody who's been there in the past. So let me go quickly to the issues, the burning issues that have surrounded basketball lately. One of the things that really took the social media by storm is your post about Kai Soto. You mentioned in that post that Kai ain't making it as an American, quote unquote, and you said an American big. And you said, I said 2 years ago he should have gone to Europe. I stand by that. Eric, we know about what happened to Kai in the Gilas bubble. Do you think that decision was a mistake, and do you think that has had a huge impact on his dreams of making the NBA?
Well, unfortunately, yeah, I do think it was a mistake. I do, you can't go back and change it, and I do think it had a big impact because, he had opportunity to get great exposure. He's obviously committed a great deal of time and effort into getting exposure and trying to make the NBA. and he missed out on that opportunity this year. It was very unfortunate. I'm sure if they could go back and change that. But in the end, I put tweets out there. In the end, it's because, I care. I'd love to see him make the NBA, and he didn't. Basically, 1 year now is in a prime development year for him. Unfortunately, is going to be lost.
You mentioned the pathway towards Europe. Do you still believe that is open to him and that is the best road to take at this point?
I mean, I would look into it. I thought a couple of years ago there was a lot of talk of him going to Europe and having offers, and certainly in Europe they have a track record for developing international players. They have a track record of developing international big men, which is what he is. I think his style of play isn't the running, jumping center as like a Rudy Gobert or a Clint Capella or, say, a Tyson Chandler. That's not his style of play. His style of play is more towards, the high side. You're looking at, a Porzingis maybe, or maybe a Gasol brother or something like that. So I thought he should have taken that opportunity a couple years ago. They did it, which is fine. There's multiple ways. I don't know if that door is still open for him, but if it is, I would pursue it because they're playing in Europe. Basically, he just needs to find a place where he can play because the G League season is over and he can't play here. So, we want the best for his development, but these years are very important.
Neither can he play, of course, in the USNCAA, and really his options is starting to close down. But again, as you said, we are all supportive of Kai. We certainly hope that he finds his road, his path towards the NBA, because at the end of the day, it'll benefit Philippine basketball. Let's go to another topic here, Eric. Sure. Bobby Ray Parks has, the issue of Bobby Ray Parks Jr. has been burning as well. We know what happened. He refused to sign the contract offered to him by Talk and Text, and instead he has opted to sit out the rest of the season or this season. First of all, did you find anything wrong or odd with what Parks did in terms of sitting out the season?
Well, I thought it was odd. I thought it was obviously it's a unique situation that doesn't happen very often. I thought it was odd that without communicating to the team, he chose to post it on social media. So I thought his communication could have been better. But in my opinion, and this is a view that I don't see, people don't take the point of view that I have in this situation is no one's really been critical of his mother team, of TNT. What people don't understand is in the PBA, everybody knows when your contract is coming up. And TNT had the whole year, his mother team or whoever, any player's team, mother team has the whole year to re-sign the player. And for whatever reason, they couldn't get it done. Like their competitors are going around, they're trading for CJ Perez, they're trading for Kristen Sanhardinger, they're signing Calvin Abueva. TNT can't even sign their best player. And then they turn around and blame Ray Parks instead of asking the question, how come this guy doesn't want to sign with you? He'd rather sit out than sign with you. Mm-hmm. So I wish Ray, I like Ray, I know him. We don't know his situation. He said there were issues with his mother. People automatically say he's lying. Well, how do you know he's lying? There's a global pandemic going on. His mother is obviously older. We know older people are at risk. So we don't know that he's lying. We don't know what the health is of his family. We don't know his situation. We haven't heard his side. So it's unfortunate that, the owner of the team slams him. The chairman of the PBA slams him. His head coach slams him. When the reality of the situation is they have his rights. He's an asset. And instead of fixing the situation, everybody wants to tell Ray, hey, he's being unprofessional. But, here's what happens in the PBA. If you're a PBA player, your team doesn't tell you a month in advance when they're going to cut you or when they're going to trade you. And they said, oh, he should have told them sooner. Well, the PBA, he told them before the draft. The PBA teams aren't even practicing right now. They don't even have a start date. So if he decides not to play, he gave them plenty of time in advance. And I don't understand. Maybe from what I understand, from the feedback I got, it doesn't seem like a lot of people like Ray Parks for whatever reason. Some of that's probably his fault. But anyway, go ahead. I'll let you chime in on what I said.
But I totally agree. We don't know what's going on with Ray. My point here in this particular issue is it's Ray's right not to sign. I mean, no player can be forced to play for whatever reason, especially if you have an expired contract. And if you decide not to sign an offer, that is your right. And no one can say that because you did not sign, then you are a bad person, you are in the wrong. And now, here's the thing, Eric, and I want to get your point, your opinion on this. Now the PBA, although Commissioner Willie has said that there is no ban on Ray, but now they're saying that, they will not give him any clearances to sign elsewhere. And again, I don't understand that. I remember the case of Asi, and you were teammates in the ABL. Asi also did not want to sign in the PBA at that time, and he decided to play in the ABL because he had no existing contract. And again, here it comes. Ray is being asked to sign. He does not sign, and now they're blackballing him. It could be a thing about even getting a job outside of the country. What do you think about that?
It's just a shame, and it's wrong. Like, I feel the powers that be are kind of throwing a temper tantrum because they didn't get their way. They're not used to having players say no or whatever. Basically, they didn't get their way, so now they're trying to force him into a situation that his only option is to re-sign with his mother team. Now, Ray is good enough to go play somewhere else. He doesn't necessarily need the PBA. And honestly, I don't know why the PBA isn't coming down harder on TNT to sign him, because he's an asset. Yeah, they can't do it, but he's an asset, and they just lost one of their best assets in a league that's already struggling. You have other players that are playing somewhere else, but I think that's wrong. I think the rule is wrong, but if they want to enforce, okay, he can't go play for another PBA team, okay, that's the rules. But if he's not under contract, and why wouldn't you release him to go play in another non-competing league?
I agree. At least in the PBA, he cannot sign with any other team. I agree with that. That is the rule. He signed that in his UPC, and nothing can be done unless the PBA changes its rules. But playing elsewhere, I mean, that's another matter. Just a final point on Bobby Ray.
Sure.
Your advice, Eric, to Bobby Ray. What would you advise? What you give it? I know you played under his father. You played in the ABL under his father, and you know the kid, as you said. What's the advice?
My advice to him would be, I think communication solves everything. I don't know exactly what he wants to do, but I would reach out. It's obvious that, Chairman Vargas and Chat Reyes aren't reaching out to him. I mean, I'm assuming based on what they said, but I would reach out to them, try to communicate with them, and find a way to build that bridge back and build some trust back, because whether you play this year or not, that team holds your rights. And, it's communicate. I think what people want more than anything is, instead of putting it out on social media and then cutting the line cold, communicate, express what you're feeling, express what you want, to where maybe you can get something in the future. You're going to need their help. So just communicate with your bosses and communicate with the PBA and try to, he's a really good player. I'm sure if he doesn't play this year, he's going to want to play in the future, and just work that out with the powers that be.
Absolutely. It's always good never to burn your bridges. I really think that Bobby Ray should play in the PBA, But
Yeah.
then again, we don't know what's really up with him. We just wish him all the best. Let me go to another topic here. There are certain players that did not make the PBA regular draft, mostly Philams, but are playing in the 3x3 league. Eric, you've been there. I know, that all of those papers, was meant to make sure that the what happened in the past does not happen again. But do you think the rules of the PBA need to be changed now, especially since they actually accept the fact that these players can play in 3x3?
Yeah, it's very inconsistent and very confusing. So it doesn't make sense. A lot of things these days don't make sense to me, really. But I think they should examine it, because this is a problem that is already a problem, right? Like, you're seeing players that have brothers, have the same parents, but they were born in different places, so one's eligible and one isn't. That's confusing enough. So, and this is going to continue happening in the future, because there's a next generation of players coming. So some consistency, re-examining rules to, I guess, adapt to the times is something that needs to be looked at. They haven't looked at it in 20 years, over 20 years. So again, if you want the PBA to flourish, you want it to be consistent. You want it to have the best talent available for the fans. So you want to basically make the best product, to make it the most attractive for the fans. How do you do that? Well, it's by adapting and continuing to evolve. So I'm hoping that the PBA does that. But it is strange. I can see how, if I was, it's confusing to me, but as a fan, you're like, hey, these are really good players playing in the 3-on-3. How come they're not playing in the normal? It's very sad.
And then again, the PBA is an entertainment platform. Let's face it; it's really to sell products.
Yep.
I would certainly welcome the best players that can play in the PBA. It's different when you start jumping into the national team. Then that's when you become a little more strict. But then again, basketball has changed, and eligibility rules, even in the FIBA, has changed. That's why the 3x3 has become a little more lax than it is with 5-on-5. You were mentioning a while ago about the players that have moved. A lot of players have done that. CJ, Stan Hardinger, Abueva, and many more. There are two trains of thought, Eric, about how the league must go about it. One thinking is that there has to be parity, but some people say that's boring. Other people say that you gotta load teams just to have rivalry, and that brings up some kind of intense competition. What is your position? Do you think that teams getting loaded is good for the league?
Me personally, I don't think it is, but I mean, that's the way it has been over the last, at least 5 years. I don't know if that has turned out to be a good thing. Are the ratings better? Are the fan attendance better? Is the, social media analytics better that way? I don't know. I don't have the numbers. I think that there is enough talent in the league to where 10 or 12 teams, if you spread it out, it could be a very competitive league. And you want it to be a mystery on who's going to win that particular conference. Now, sure, there's always going to be your range of contenders, but those contenders have narrowed, I would say, over the years. And I personally don't like it, but you'd have to really dive into the data, and like you said, it's a business, and figure out what the balance is. What do the fans really want to see? I should ask you, what do you think? You're a former commissioner and a former executive. Like, how do you like it?
I don't like it. I mean, I've always believed in parity. As you said, unpredictability always, sells. The statements, for instance, of Coach Yengia that the teams are now only fighting for fifth place. That really hurts the league. I mean, if that's a statement that cannot be taken sitting down by the commissioner. Actually, it is detrimental to the league. I believe that teams should be given a fair chance. But then again, how do you correct this imbalance, Eric? For instance, during your time, we know that somehow there were trades that were not allowed because this would just simply create a lot of imbalance. Do you think the trades are now just being allowed left and right by this trading committee?
Yeah, they're being allowed, and it's weird how they can find a loophole to where it seems fair, I guess. But the fans know if you're on social media at all, you can see that the fans know what's going on, and it's a shame to see, but that's the way that I don't know how to fix that other than vetting the teams that want to enter the PBA to make sure that their intentions are correct. Because once they're in, and it's really hard to go back and try to say, hey, you can't do this, you can't do that. So I think the expansion last time, which was a few years ago now, that I guess in retrospect, that looks like a mistake.
It didn't work. Yeah, it didn't work. Yeah.
So I don't know how you fix that now that they're already there. So
a couple of things, they really have to look at the salary cap. I think that's something that has to be fixed. That's been thrown out of the window now. I've been talking to some PBA insiders, and I'm being told that the salary cap is almost non-existent. Certain teams have like 10 players who are being paid maximum salary, Eric.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. Like, I'm a realist. I don't like to play make believe or pretend. And what we've been doing here is pretending that there's certain rules that we're supposed to follow, but teams aren't following, right? So I almost would rather to see if it's just going to be. It's a tough situation to be in, and certain teams have bigger budgets than other teams, and they're using that to their advantage.
All right, just a couple of things here. You also mentioned in your social media that you believe Mikey Williams is probably the best rookie applicant out there. He should have gone first. Why do you think that way? And secondly, how big of a pickup was this for Talk and Text?
Oh, it was a huge pickup for Talk and Text. They look like that they may have orchestrated a way for him to fall to fourth. Again, that's just what I've been. That's what people are saying. So.
That's what sister teams are all about.
Exactly. So no, but I've seen Mikey play in ABL a couple of years ago, and he's played for Mighty Sports, and I thought he was the clear number one pick. I'm not sure how he dropped to even 3. I could see maybe him going 2, but I was very surprised. I shouldn't say I wasn't surprised, but he should have went number 1. He should have went number 1.
He dropped to 4.
And I would say, like, I don't want to say he's Stanley Pringle-ish. I don't know if he's quite as good as Stanley, but he's in that conversation, I think. So I don't want to put too much pressure on him, but he's a really good player, a good shooter, scorer, strong guard. So I'm looking forward to seeing him play in the PBA whenever that is.
All right. Well, just before I let you go, let me get your thoughts about the NBA. There was a huge frenzy just on trade deadline. What do you think was the most explosive, in fact, maybe most impactful trade that happened in the NBA trade deadline, Eric?
Yeah, I really liked what Chicago did, but I really liked more than that maybe what Denver did by getting Aaron Gordon. He's a guy that maybe his role is a little too far expanded in Orlando, but if you narrow it down a little bit to where, in Denver now he's going to be the third or fourth option, and along he's a great defensive player. He's obviously a great athlete. So if he can fit in and play a good role for them, Denver goes from, being a middle, fourth or fifth, sixth seed to maybe now that they can compete if everything's right in the West.
And your MVP at this point of the season?
I was just talking about that this morning. I think, unfortunately, there's been some injuries to Embiid and LeBron. I thought LeBron was going to win it, but Embiid was having a great season. But right now, I really think Jokic has to be the front runner. He's number one. He's number one in the NBA in PER, win shares, value over replacement player. Like he's number one in 4 or 5 categories. And he's just doing everything. Like he's having an incredible season. So I don't know how, he's definitely right there at the top if he's not the favorite right now.
Well, the question is about this stage, and I certainly agree. Jokic is a great pick. Of course, Giannis has made a great case as well going back. But again, all of these votes will come down to subjective factors in the end. But Eric, you'll always be an MVP to me. And it's always great talking to you. Very few people can, have the guts to talk and say, give their honest opinion about what's happening. And we're just happy that you are on social media for all of us to hear what you have in mind. Thanks so much, Eric.
Thanks for having me. It was great talking to you this morning.
We'll keep in touch.
Yes, please.
Thank you. Mga kaibigan, yan po si Major Pain, Eric Mink, mga kaibigan. One of the most, colorful athletes that the PBA has ever seen. A man that really, raised the level of the game in the PBA. And he certainly knows what he's talking about. He's been in the league for so long. Nakita niya ang napakaraming yugto ng PBA. And sana nga, kahit papano, huwag maging balat sibuyas sa mga nagpapatakbo ng ating liga. Alam niyo po, binibigyan natin ng pagkakataon na maayos yung mga mali at sana naman kahit paano mapakinggan ang komentaryo ng mga ordinaryong mga mamamayan. Alright mga kaibigan, we will take a quick break. Magbabalik pa po ang Power and Play hatid sa inyo ng Big Boss Mink at ng Cherry Loom. best moments sa kasaysayan ng palakasan this week in sports history. March Madness na uli, kaya balikan natin ang kauna-unahang US NCAA Championship game na ginanap noong March 27, 1939. Naku 82 years ago kung saan nagtapat ang Oregon at Ohio State. Ginanap ang laro na yan sa premises ng Northwestern University. Tinambakan ng Oregon ng Ohio State sa score na 46-33. One quarter lang yan ngayon para sungkitin ang kampyonato. First ever NCAA championship this week in sports history. Grabe, ang tagal na yan. Ilang taon? 82 years ago, ha? Parang kasing edad na ng ina ko yan, ha? By the way, happy birthday sa SBP Vice Chairman, ang aking pong kaibigan, dating PBA Marketing Head, at ngayon po Congressman ng Antipolo City, Congressman Robbie Puno. Happy birthday, Kong Robbie. Good, I hope you stay safe and wishing you all the best. Congratulate din po natin ang PSA, ang Philippine Sports Writers Association, sa kanilang awards night. Mamayang gabi, abangan nyo po yan, ang kanilang PSA Awards Night over TV5. At this point, mga kaibigan, recently, nagkaroon po ng announcement ng pagriretiro ng isa sa mga high-flying acts sa PBA. Siya po ang tinaguriang The Rocket at ang isa sa pinaka-colorful na players ng PBA. Atin pong naabutan ang kariretiro pa lamang na The Rocket, JC Intal, dito po sa panayam na ito. Panoorin po ninyo. Unang tanong ko sa iyo is, was this really the plan to call it quits on your 13th year, JC?
No. Dream ko talaga, my personal goal as a professional basketball player is to reach 15 years. I played for 5 years in Ateneo. Parang gusto ko times 3 yun sa pro kasi hindi ko ma-imagine na hindi ako naglalaro ng basketball. At the same time, yun, the personal goal ko medyo napaaga. And yun nga po, malaking factor talaga when I went to the PBA bubble. Actually, hindi naman talaga yung PBA bubble experience ko yung deciding factor. Noong time na nandun ako, for almost 2 months, na-miss ko talaga yung family ko every single day. But it was a great experience doon sa bubble. And sayang hindi kami nakabot ng finals.
I guess it's really... it's not so much kung ano yung naranasan mo sa bubble, but I guess it's the influence ng pamilya mo, especially your wife, Bianca, on you.
Yes.
Can you just describe kung gaano kalaki ang role ng pamilya, lalo-lalo na si Bianca, sa iyong napakaraming taon sa PBA?
Yeah, we met in 2012 and nasubaybayan niya yung PBA career ko and nakita niya yung ups and downs ko sa basketball. And yun nga, nung nasa bubble ako, napapag-usapan namin na sabi ko, yun yung mga days na naisip ko na kung itutuloy ko pa ba. Kasi lalo na yung pandemic. Gusto ko lang i-clear yung sinabi ko dati na parang hindi na yung na puno yung crowd and syempre safety first. And naging malaking factor din yung age ko kung I'm 37 already.
Oo, pero bata pa yan. Hindi ba? Tatanungin ko ngayon, JC, kasi 37 is not young but not old. Alam natin na maraming players na naglalaro pa din. Kaya tanong ko sa'yo, hindi kaya midlife crisis ito, JC?
Hindi naman. And
talagang napag-isipan mo to? I mean, you've consulted the family and the people important to you.
I talked to my wife, Bianca, after the bubble. And certain din yung time ko kaya mag-start yung practice namin ng January. And Phoenix drafted 5 players. So sabi ko, if I will play, baka hindi na ganun ka rin. Parang in-entertain ko rin sa mind ko na baka hindi na ako makapag-contribute ng mas kasi yung utak ko na shift sa art ng pandemic.
Oo nga eh. Nabalitaan ko nga yan.
Nung buong lockdown, nandun ako sa art studio. Parang yung passion ko napunta bigla sa art. And,
Pag-usapan natin yan mamaya. But, you know, just one, out of curiosity, wala ka na, expired ang contract mo with Phoenix. Ganun ba yun?
yeah. Yes, Tom. My contract expired last December.
Okay.
And
Were you in the middle of negotiations nung decide ka na ayaw ka?
yes. Nakipag-negotiate. Wala po kasi yung manager ever since. So ako nakipag-usap. And then, in December, nag-usap kami. And then, January, parang they told me to wait for the draft. And they offered me the PBA 3-on-3. Sabi ko, baka mapass na ako kasi talagang sabi ko baka hindi ko mabigay yung 100% focus ko dun sa training. Kasi yun nga, yung sa pag-uusapan po natin mamaya sa show po ako na talagang nag-ahabol ako ng deadline din.
Okay. Sige.
Yeah, so factor din. Yeah.
It's interesting na, you know, this decision has been made. Alam natin na at this time, that is a final decision that you've made, and obviously, marami kang pinusulta ng mga malalapit sa'yo, your wife, your family. Pero, you know, hindi kaya, alam natin ngayon, hindi pa siguro yan, no? Pero, few years later, when you look back, ano sa tingin mo mamimiss mo? You know, with this decision, what will you miss most sa paglaro sa PBA?
Actually, last Monday, after I announced my retirement, I asked
Tumama?
I even nag-sink in na talaga ako, man. I told my wife, I know pinag-isipan ka mabuti. I consulted you, I consulted my family, my parents, even my best friend Doug Kramer, my best friend J.R. Reyes. Yung nakasama ko ever since high school and college. And sabi ko, I'm sure miss ko basketball, and I have no regrets naman ko. And mag-iiba lang talaga yung routine every day. Imagine for 20 years, I'm practicing every morning, working out in the afternoon. So talagang, I'm happy naman with my decision and no regrets naman po.
Well, you know, sabi mo nga, 20 years, ang tagal, it's been a long time. You started with the Tran, you started with Claret, you went to the Tran.
Yes.
Naglaro din, of course, you went to the Ateneo and all the way to the PBA. And when you look back, let's try to see a little bit ng mga ginawa mo. JC, what was, you know, you won your first championship, your first major championship in the UAP back in 2002. That was a historic win, and it stopped, of course, yung Salazar na inahabol nila yung kanilang fight kick, no? How much of your time with the Blue Eagles played a role in your basketball career?
My 5 years at Ateneo, it gave me so much confidence going to the pros, to the PBA. And nung pumasok ako ng rookie year ko sa Ateneo, 2002, wala sa isip ko yung mag-pro. When I felt na parang pwede ko ituloy-tuloy, nung third year college ako, nung junior year ko sa Ateneo, naglaro na ako ng PBL, amateur. I think that was Ateneo D5, and then doon ko like na-consider na pupukin yung sarili ko talaga na makapag-pro na. And yun yung goal ko nung 5 years ko sa Ateneo. And then sadly, we lost to UST in 2006. But sabi ko, I'm sure may buwelo naman kahit pa before the draft. Kasi kahit, even though we lost the championship, sabi ko kay Doug Kramer, maki-escolan, at least kahit pa paano nakita tayo kung paano tayo maglaro, ganyan. So, yeah, malaking tulong talaga yung UAP.
You were UAP first team in 2006 nung natalo ka Ateneo sa UST in a napakasakit na pagkatalo because you won game 1 and then you lost game 2 and in an overtime natalo ang Ateneo sa UST. In what was billed as a huge upset dahil ng panahon na yun, you had a 10-2 record going into the finals. No? So, ang tanong ko, you know, looking back at the championship sa 2002, and then pinag-usapan natin yung playing ng pagkatalo naman in 2006, saan mas malaking leksyon na nakuha mo or JC? Or were these both experiences na nagbigay sa'yo ng mga lessons na dinala mo sa iyong playing career?
Sir, that game 2006, game 3, overtime, I took the last shot. Right until now, kaya ko pa i-play sa utak ko yung time, kung nasan ako noon, kung sino nakabantay. And nung time na yun, hindi na nawala sa isip ko na parang never be afraid to take crucial shots. And then sa PBA, naging role player ako, nakabayal akong konti sa Inebra, naging role player sa Pure Food, sa BMEG. And sabi ko sa sarili ko, even sa mga kids na na tinuturuan ko dati, sabi ko never be afraid to take it as long as feel mo, ganyan. And wala, talagang kung ano lang yung bigay sa'yo talaga eh. Yun lang talaga eh. And then,
well, nakita naman nila kung anong klase kang player. And of course, maraming natuwa sa pagpasok mo sa PBA. And, let's talk about your PBA. You were one of the most popular players in the PBA. Lalo na nung tumungtong ka sa Ginebra, you became one of the well-known dunkers in the league. And you basically fit in any role. Yun na kagandahan ng laro mo because you were very athletic, very mobile, and you could play a number of positions. And also, hindi lang yung naging advantage mo, parang naging disadvantage din because you became a favorite trading piece ng mga teams. No? Because yun nga, paborito ka and you could fit any role. Do you think na kahit paano, that's stymied a little bit yung growth mo sa PBA, JC?
when I entered the PBA po kasi, nung year 21 ako, hindi ko natapos yung first year ko na had a skin condition and I thought hindi na makapaguloy ng basketball. And then after a few conferences, I got traded to Ginebra. When that time pala, Mark Tony was injured, JJ was injured, even Eric Major. So sabi ko, ito na yung chance ko makapagpakita. So nabigyan ako ng big role ni Coach Jong nun, alongside ko na tubig. And then, umabot kami semis, finals, talo kami twice ng finals. And then I got traded to BMEG, Pure Foods, under Coach Tim Cone. Sabi ko, told my wife, okay na rin pala, nakakakuha ako ng championship dito sa BMEG. Kasi hindi mo alam sa PBA, it's unpredictable. Hindi mo masabi. Hindi mo masabi kung kailan ka mag-champion.
Alam mo, I remember very vividly yung 2012 championship ninyo with BMEG. I was there. I saw, of course, alam natin yung nangyari kay Denzel Post.
Yes,
Yung this na ginawa, nangyari kay Talk and Text at that time. And, a miraculous comeback for BMEG, winning that one. And I remember it vividly dahil ikaw, napatakbo ka sa stands during the time to go to Bianca. At that time, who wasn't then. And it was just a very poignant moment. How big or how does that rank among all the highlights sa iyong career, JC? Yung 2012 championship sa PBA, your one and only championship.
One and only. One and only. Alam kasi nagbawa ko yung story nung mag-boyfriend-girlfriend pa lang kami. Sabi ko, nakakuha na ako ng championship sa Letran. After 14 years, nanalo kami na J. Reyes, RJ Azul, Ray Guevara sa Letran. So, college naman, rookie year ko sa Ateneo, nakakuha na akong championship. Talo kami ng FU ng finals, 2 years din ng finals. So, sana tatlo. And then sabi ko, PBA, talo kami sa Ginebra finals twice. Air 21 rookie year against Ginebra, talo kami game 7. So, kaya siguro ko napatakbo sa kanya, alam niyo yung story na gustong-gusto ko makakuha ng championship sa PBA ko. And yun para pagkumpleto din. Kasi high school, college, and sa pro, hindi mo alam talaga eh. Unless, siguro kung gusto show mo pa ito, parang,
Nung panahon yun, talaga naman makikita mo yung diktigan, yung laban. There was not a very clear-cut contender o sino yung talagang lamang na lamang ng mga panahon na yun. But again, you've been handled by so many coaches. Nabanggit mo nga si Coach Jong, Coach Tim, you were under Coach Joel, you were under so many other great coaches. Norman Black, yes, absolutely. And sino ang may biggest influence sa'yo, JC, in your career from the time you started playing hanggang ngayon na nag-retiro ka na?
It's Coach Roman. He's my second father. He was my second father in Ateneo. Tinutulong ko lang mag-prepare na for the pros no final year ko. And yeah, he's my ninong also sa kasal. He even went to El Nido pala when he attended our wedding. So he talaga nandun siya for me kahit na hindi ako nakapaglaro sa kanya under him sa PBA, and how I wish na paglaro sa kanya, but yun na, walang chance. And yeah, it's Coach Norman. And
What kind of lesson natutunan mo kay Norman, kay Coach Norman, JC?
marami kasi si Coach Norman, titingnan lang ako nun sa games, UAP, alam ko na nagalit siya eh. Alam ko na yung tingin niya na, alam ko kailangan kong dumipensa, kailangan kong diinan pa pag-drive. Alam ko yung tinginan namin before, and nadala ko yun sa pro kasi nagkaroon ako ng maraming coaches sa PBA and iba-ibang approach. So talagang wini-wish ko nakapaglaro ako under him. But yun, minsan nagte-text ako sa kanya nung nasa PBA ako. And yeah.
Siya ba, nasabihin mo ba siya just before you decided to retire?
No. I included in my my long caption on social media.
Has he reached out to you after your announcement, JC?
No, wala.
Hindi pa naman. But I'm sure he is also wishing you all the best. That's the decision mong yan. But you played with so many players sa UAAP and of course in the PBA. Is there any particular player that you really, really enjoyed playing with?
Of course, it's my buddy Doug Kramer. Sabay kami pumasok sa PBA ng rookie year 21, and then sabay kami nag-retire siya, teammates kami nung college. Me and JRS, sabay kami nag-retire na rin. I think he'll announce his retirement na rin soon.
Parang talaga, ha? Well, kasi sabay-sabay pa. Okay, and in terms of mga player naman na natuto ka, players that you've learned from, obviously may mga mas matatanda ka na kalaro. Is there any particular player na talagang, malaking naging ambag sa, not only as a player but also as a person para sa
growing up kasi po, when I was in grade 7, first year high school, I was watching, I'm a big fan of Danny Siegel. After ko magkasama sa championship ng DMEG team in 2012, I got traded to Barako Bull, and he was there. Sabi ko, to be honest, masama yung loob ko na na-trade ako from a championship team. And nakasama ko si Danny Siegel noong time na yun. Doon ko na feel na yung happiest years ko rin sa Barako Bull. Parang kaming even if hindi kami nakapasok ng semis or finals, doon ako nag-enjoy talaga yung veteran leadership ni Danny Siegel. And dami kong every single day sa practices, pinapanood ko lang yung ginagawa niya. For me, hindi niya alam yun eh. Pero ito lang, first day pa nag-meet kami, sabi ko, Danny, you're my idol ever since. And ayaw na maniwala.
Well, I'm sure the mentor is very proud of the student. Especially now na nag-retiro ka na. Of course, as I mentioned kanina, ang dami mong rules na nilaruan. Kaya nga paborito ka na i-trade because you could fit any kind of team and you could defend as well. Pag pinag-uusapan ng depensa, JC, who was the most difficult player naman na you defended or you played against na talagang mukhang parang hirap ka na kaya nito?
By rule, when I got traded to Pure Foods to DMEG, Coach Tim pinasa sa akin ng mga imports nun. So for me, lahat ng imports na nabantayan ko nun, mga 6'4", 6'5". Hirap talaga. Pinoy, it's Marco Gio and JJ at their brand.
Really?
During my Endeavor days, I got to guard them. Even James, sakit sa ulo. Sakit sa ulo ba tayo?
At hanggang ngayon, nagpapasakit pa rin ng ulo sa si
even James, yeah.
Alright, you mentioned also in some of your interviews na ang isa sa pinakamataas na point ng iyong career was joining the national team back in 2015 sa FIBA Asia Cup sa Changsha. Can you tell us a little bit about that experience and gaano kalaking impact yan in terms of, how you see your career now as a complete basketball player?
That's ultimate parang dream ko makapaglaro sa national team. Nung time na nasa Ateneo, napapanood ko yung mga national team players na sa Mauro Lorenzo and Ateneo, they were practicing before us. And sabi ko, sana one day makapaglaro ko din. During my time in Barakabul, Coach Tab talked to me. Sabi niya, if you're interested, you join our practices. So, kinilabutan ako ng com after game Barakabul versus Talk and Text. Kinantay niya ako doon sa may cross doon sa Araneta Coliseum.
Oo.
Hindi ako makapaniwala na na kinuha niya ako, and ang daming nagtataka doon, ba't ako napunta doon. And yung time rin naman star players, superstars ng PBA na nag-back out for personal reasons. Siguro issues. Siguro may mga family personal matters. And sabi ko, right timing na rin na na makapaglaro doon, and yung experience ni siya, even though medyo luto talaga, actually sobrang luto, sobrang memorable experience kasi nakakuha kami ng silver medal doon, even sa Jones Cup, played against Iran, the mighty China. So, yeah, sobrang proud ako sa team na yun kasi hindi siya superstars sa PBA, pero lumaban talaga.
Well, again, sabi nga natin, your career has gone full circle talagang, and as you said, that was a highlight ng basketball career mo. Again, JC, sa dami nagawa mo, sa dami na nakuha mong awards, from the collegiate league all the way to the PBA, is there still anything na kulang doon sa resume mo? Is there something that you still thought you could have done, but maybe it's time to let go?
I told my wife na ko sana before man na ako nag-retire, nakapag-ulit ako sa PBA Finals. But we were one game away ng PBA bubble. It was a do-or-die game din against the Perfects, pero talagang wala, hindi ako.
At least you're a champion.
Yeah.
Oo, maraming players na hindi makakapagsabing na kapag nanalo sila ng kampiyonato, even at your level, yung superstar level. JC, moving forward, you were talking about your art. Can you tell us about that? Kasi ako, I'm really interested. No? Paano mo nasimulan yan? At anong klaseng art ang ginagawa mo ngayon, JC?
Before I started playing basketball, nung grade school and high school, ako sumasali ako sa mga painting contests. At school, art contest. So, na-shift yung focus ko lang when I joined the varsity team when I tried for basketball. Nawala na, as in, wala na akong art. But nung pumasok ako sa Ateneo, may mga art class noon, mga elective. So, paint, minsan, nagiging hobby siya. And a few years back, in 2018, I met this guy. He's naging mentor ko. He's my idol sa art world. His name is Jigger Cruz. Noong time na hindi ko alam na artist siya. And I met him kasi nag-motorcycle ako a few years back. And then, pumunta ako sa bahay niya. Meron siyang art studio sa likod. So, doon ulit bumalik sa akin na ba't hindi ko i-try. And then, yun, after basketball, after training, paint ako sa bahay din. Fast forward, nagkaroon po ako ng art show last Feb before the pandemic. So, sobrang timing din, sobrang laking blessing kasi naging successful siya. Tapos, nag-pandemic. And then, nag-lockdown. And then, bubble. So, nung wala kaming training, wala kaming practices, nagka-paint na ako. Bila yung naging...
Were you able to paint during the bubble? Sa loob ng bubble?
No, hindi na.
Hindi ka nagpe-painting doon. Alright. Bakit art? Bakit painting, JC? Ang layo sa basketball, di ba? When you look at it, yung contrast, yung so much energy, so much action in basketball, in sports, and then you shift to art na napakakalmado, napakatahimik, napaka-solitary. Why the sudden change?
Actually marami talaga nagulat na parang, iba, may ibang matatari sa art, dami nakaka-appreciate, and dami hindi nakaka-appreciate. But sabi ko nga kay Bianca, when I hold the basketball, yun yung feeling ko pag hawak ko ng palette knife and brush. Parang same yung passion ko sa basketball, same dun sa art. Pareho ko. So, sabi ko, tuloy-tuloy ko na lang din kasi doon ako nag-e-enjoy. Ayoko, like, pumasok sa isang bagay na hindi ako nag-e-enjoy na hindi ko rin mabibigay yung 100% ko.
So, ito anong favorite subject mo to paint?
Ako abstract. I love thick oil paints, action painting. Yeah. So expressionism. Yeah.
Are you having another show sa
Yes. Ako.
kailan to?
This April, merong Art Fair Philippines, and then after April, baka May po, meron akong second solo show sa J Studio in Makati. So,
Wow, puntahan ninyo yan mga kaibigan. Si Ita na kanyang solo show. Naku, ako siguro mapapapasyal din. Dapat makakuha ko ng isang painting mo. Hira yun. Na makakuha ng isang painting from a basketball player. I know, before I let you go, JC, I know you have two lovely girls. Sila ba, if ever they decide, and they ask you that, can I become an athlete or can I become an artist? Anong mas marirecommend mo sa kanila?
ako, ready. As long as, yun nga, so if they're passionate about it, I will support them all the way. And kahit anong gusto nilang gawin sa buhay nila, support lang kami ni Bianca. And habang lumabilis na lumaki, yan, mag-guide lang kami sa kanila. And yung isa pa ko, yun talaga, yung family time ko sa kanila, mas malalagyan.
Of course, and I'm sure they're the happiest of all. Kasama ka nila ngayon, and Papa will be with them the rest of the way. Yan po mga kaibigan, ang partner natin kay JC Intal. Congratulations, JC. And we wish you all the best sa iyong bagong career, bagong passion, yung art din, of course, sa kanyang pagre-retiro mula sa basketball. Sabi nga pala niya, at the very end, sabi niya, final na. Hindi na siya babalik sa PBA. Hindi na siya tuloy maglalaro. Kasi may mga lumalabas na retirement, di ba? At this point, mga kaibigan, gusto natin magpasalamat sa lahat po ng ating mga sponsors. Una sa listahan, Big Boss Cement, Big Boss at Tatak, Big Boss at Tibay. Nandito na Big Boss Cement. Di basta matitibag, approved sa kalikasan at sobrang abot kaya. Big Boss Cement is the first eco-friendly cement company in the Philippines. First and only cement that is produced with low to 0% of high carbon footprint materials. Big Boss Cement, Big Boss at Tatag, Big Boss at Tibay. Maraming po salamat kay Engineer Gilbert Cruz at sa buong staff ng Big Boss Cement. Maraming din po salamat sa Cherry Loom, ang yerong may aluminum. Sa ganitong pabago-bago ang panahon, mga kapatid, sobrang init tapos biglang uulan, kailangan natin ng matibay at protektadong bubong. Dapat ang bubong ay yerong may aluminum. Kapag may aluminum, tsak na pang matagalan. At isa lang alam kong ikalidad na yerong may aluminum, yan ang Cherry Loom. Tibay protektado sa pang matagalang yero. Cherry Loom, ang yerong may aluminum. Maraming po salamat sa ating kaibigan si Pareng Elmer Ngo ng Cherry Loom. Maraming po salamat sa Elms Resto Bar Group, home of fried itik, na meron pong branches sa Elms Tapasin Winery located sa Cali Bistro, Commonwealth, Quezon City, at sa Elms Grill and Bar sa Poblacion, Makati. You may call mobile number 0977-157-0499 or visit their Facebook and IG pages at Elms Resto Bar Group for reservations and inquiries. Marami din po salamat, of course, sa Joyride, ang bago ninyong kasundo. Dahil araw naming nahihirapan ka, book Joyride Motorcycle Taxi now and experience hassle-free commute. Kapag delivery naman, Joyride ang gamitin, bagsak presyo pero hindi ang serbisyo. Joyride is now on its lowest rates ever. Available na rin po ang Joyride sa lalawigan ng Laguna. Download the latest Joyride and Happy Move app. Thank you also to Makisagot Professional, your School of Makeup Artistry, the official makeup of Power and Play. And of course, finally, maraming po salamat sa Skin, your face and body anti-aging center, with branches at Wilson Street sa San Juan City at sa Alabang Town Center sa Muntinlupa City. We provide Indiba tissue regeneration procedure, mesotherapy, Maximus Tri-Lipo, and many more to take care of your body needs. For inquiries, please call 0917-890-1640. Maraming salamat po sa lahat ng mga tagapagtaguyod ng Power and Play. We will have a quick break sa aming pong pagbabalik. Meggie Ochoa at si Coach Tab Baldwin sa Power and Play. Hatid sa inyo ng Big Boss Cement at ng Cherry Loom. Nagbabalik po ang Power and Play. Alam naman po natin ang Gilas Pilipinas patuloy na nasa isang training bubble dyan po sa Calamba, yung sa Inspire Academy. Kagabi po, naabutan natin ang SPP Program Director at pinag-usapan niya ang mga kaganapan and of course mga plano ng SPP. Ito po ang ating panayam with Coach Tab Baldwin. Panoorin po ninyo to. This is a young group that you have with you compared to what you had in the past. And first of all, the question is, what ultimately became the reason for an all-cadets pool? What was the decision? Walk us through the process between the SPP and the PBA in deciding finally, let's just do an all-cadets pool in the meantime.
Well, I just comment on the beginning of your question. I feel personally like the older I get, the younger players I seem to be getting in my career. And I remember when I was a young coach and I went to New Zealand, I was coaching guys older than me. So, you know, somehow this circle of life it's full of irony. No, look, you know, everybody is trying to do a balancing act, much like people are trying to do in their daily lives, common people out there. And the SPP, the PBA, FIBA as well, everybody's trying to balance a lot of different variables that we can't seem to get a grasp on. You know, at one time we're going to have a bubble competition, a FIBA tournament, and we have PBA players available, and you know, and so we prepare, we build, and then that gets canceled, and then the PBA they want to run their business too,
right?
So they're busy trying to run their schedule, and even they are having a hard time because of the shifting sands that we're all living on. So always in the background is the decision that was made, you know, some probably 3 years ago now, to develop a cadet national team that would become a senior national team with a lot of training together. And that's a slow process because we're building it through the draft. And, you know, the last 2 drafts haven't been, you know, as talent laden as we had hoped, or, you know, and you can't control that either. Who decides to come out, who decides to make themselves available for the Gilas pool. But, you know, we've, on the other hand, we've been sort of gifted through the pandemic the opportunity to get access to the top college players because they can't train. So it's really, you know, a rainbow of issues. And, you know, I got to give Ryan Gregorio a lot of credit because he's been working in the background, talking to the university, talking to the PBA. Boss Al Panlilio also is, you know, in the background, and they're doing all of these deals with all of these entities, and no sooner do they get one deal done for a bubble and a prospective competition, then the competition disappears again. So we leave the bubble with all of that work, but I'm not going to say it's wasted because these are young players. Right. So all of this is development for their future, but we do need games.
Well, I was going to get to that, although, you know, before I get to that, you know, you're talking about there really is no waste in what you've done. But do you think that there, you know, the lack of the absence of the pros is a quote-unquote setback to the program, or do you really think that, you know, this is really more of a serendipitous occurrence? You know, that you have an opportunity to, as you said in one of your interviews, bring in the prospects and really hasten the learning process.
And that's exactly what we're trying to do now. You know, that we brought in all the players that we believe are serious candidates for future Gilas teams. And that future might come very quickly. It might come in June. We might roll out a team that has teenagers in it. And that's very, very possible. So, you know, the future can be now for some of these kids. And then we've brought in other players that we think are potential prospects, but they would be, excuse overusing the term, but they would be on the bubble of selection even into the pool. But we need them for the numbers to make our trainings wholesome. You know, we need enough players to run through the training. So, you know, we have brought in extra players. So to get back to the other part of your question, not having the players is a setback. Not having the PBA players, every time that happens, that is a setback for the Gilas program, because ultimately we always hope we're going to get an injection of talent, and very often we do, but we don't always need them for the extensive training that we're doing in the bubble. So, we don't look at it as a setback. We look at it as an opportunity to focus on these younger players, to build them for the future. And then we hope that the PBA calendar allows us significant access to the PBA players when they are allowed to come in. So it's not, 3 or 4 days or a week before the competition. We need something more significant than that.
Yeah.
And we just have to every time play that by ear and appreciate what the PBA is trying to do as well. As long as we have mutual appreciation for one another's businesses, then I think we're going to be fine.
Well, it is a slippery slope, a difficult balance, obviously. And then put that in the perspective of a pandemic that, you don't know the plans, shifting plans and the changing conditions. Are you right where you want to be with the program, Coach Tab? We know that the pandemic has delayed a lot of things, but at the same time, it has also hastened the opportunity to bring in the building blocks of this program for you. So are you comfortable? Are you right on your timetable as you build, I know, of course, for 2023?
Not at all. Not at all. But you can't point a finger at anybody. There's nobody out there that you can say it's their fault or it's their fault. We just live in a world now where the best laid plans of mice and men are going awry, and they're going awry on a regular basis. And so now it's more about having a dedicated management with Boss Al Panlilio and Boss Sonny Barrios and Ryan Gregorio, that they're dedicated to being able to dance, if I can use that term. And the reason I say dance is because you just never know what the next challenge is going to be because of these shifting sands. And, the frustration is oftentimes huge. And, we want to have this set of conditions, and we can't get it for one reason or another. We want to have that group of players. We can't get them for one reason or another. But I don't have anything but praise for all of the parties that are, trying to wrestle with all of these, obstacles and problems, and their willingness to work with me, to work with one another, to just try and solve problems. But unfortunately, there are a lot of problems that aren't getting solved. I mean the Kaiso thing is another example. In and out, and can we get it back? And that's another organization that is trying to wrestle with their own goals as well.
Right.
And of course, in the background, there's always the fans who want the best team out there. So, everybody right now is having to bite the bullet, and it's tough, and there is no perfect pathway. We're just trying to find the best one that we can in each, period.
Yeah. Well, outside of the personnel, outside of the tools that you are given, there is that issue, and you mentioned it a while ago, of a lack of competition, a lack of games for your team. What are the plans, Coach Tab, for Gilas in that regard?
Again, I have to go back. This word plans is just like, it's a dream now, We should be saying, what are your fantasies instead of what are your plans?
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
We can't seem to bring our plans to fruition. We had planned at the end of this bubble initially to go down to Australia and possibly New Zealand and get games against pro teams down there as preparation for the June calendar. And that was after the PBA had made a kind offer for us to be able to participate as a guest team in the entire PBA. And then Australia closed its borders, so we went back to the PBA, sort of cap in hand, begging, saying, it's late, can we get back in? And they were willing to help us again. And then, of course, then the PBA gets delayed. So, the difficulty is, it's not that we don't have the resources, we don't have the connections to organize games. It's just you can't get in anywhere right now. Europe is closed, Australia is closed. you can get into the States, but who are you going to play in the States? Like, one of my conditions is that we need to play real teams. We don't need to play composite all-star teams that are pulled together at the last minute, because that's not going to prepare us to go up against a Korean team that is well-trained, a Dominican Republic team that is well-trained, a Serbian team that is, very well-trained and plays like a team. If we go and play these all-star composite teams, which is all that's available in the U.S., I think it's actually going to be detrimental to our development.
Mm-hmm.
So we just have to bite the bullet again and keep hoping and waiting for windows to open. And I guess the big one now is we're just praying along with the PBA that we can find a calendar for the PBA, and hopefully we can use games against PBA teams as development.
Well, even that is up in the air. Up to now, the plans of the PBA continue to be very fluid. Nothing has been certain, and certainly many people are still working on that. You were talking about very possibly this young team could be already competing in June, and obviously this is the cadets team being put immediately to the test. But those are the short-term goals. We know for that. We know that our long-term goals include our hosting of the 2023 World Cup. How much of this pool do you think will be involved for those long-term goals?
Again, it's difficult to say. I think we have 5, 6, 7 players here who right now project to be talented enough and smart enough. And I'm just pulling that number out of the air. I didn't really sit down and think about the answer to that question. But I think most of them, are even longer term. And I remember sitting in Boss MVP's office when we were conceptualizing this program probably more than 3 years ago. And we were talking about 2023 and the hosting rights, and MVP was saying how strong a team can we put together. And we said, well, with Kai Soto and AJ Edu and the age they will be in, and some very, very good players we have coming through, we think we can have a pretty strong team. And when we started to put it on paper, MVP, who was very sagely gentleman, he looked up at the board and he turned to me and he said, "We're really talking about 2027 here, aren't we?" I said, "Boss, you know what? If you want to talk about having a world-class team that competes to get into the final 8 and maybe into the medal round, yeah, you're probably right. And 2023, we want to fight to get into that second round, and then who knows? We'll play that game. The sort of let's get an advancement, let's win some games." Maybe the team matures in the process and has the ability to stand up to tougher competition. I've seen that happen. I've been part of that.
Oh, yes. Yeah. With New Zealand.
Right. So I know that it can happen, but it is still, the dark horse, and we still have to recognize that. But I think if we stay the course and we have all of this talent and we continue to nurture this talent and demand from this talent excellence, then I think somewhere down the track we can be a competitive top 10 team in the world.
Yeah.
Even if we don't get our rankings that high, I think we can be on that level. And I think that's a very worthy goal for this program.
It's giving me goosebumps just thinking about, the scenario that you're painting, getting to the second round, and who knows what happens, especially with the crowd support, playing in the Philippine arena, or assuming there are fans in 2023. Again, that's another thing, another fantasy, as you call it, Coach Tab. But everybody's making all these sacrifices, Tab, and we know that you've talked about the real prospects here, Kai, AJ, Edu, all of the other names that you're molding, you're cultivating, you're nurturing. Let me talk about Kai just for a very short, very quickly. He was in the bubble. He was with you training, and of course, we know what happened there. That all that. I guess let's just call it, for a lack of a really tight term, a fiasco. But do you think it was a mistake for Kai to have gone to the bubble, given the opportunities that he had at the time?
Look, if we look at everything in hindsight, then, we can make a lot better decisions, all of us. And, Kai, if the opportunity came to look at it in hindsight, he may look at it differently. But having had those few days with Kai and seeing the kid back around his friends, back in his Filipino skin, immensely enjoying not the training so much, not the coaching so much, but enjoying the fellowship with his boyhood friends and seeing their development in basketball and them seeing his development in basketball. I think that's invaluable. I think it's invaluable for him. There's a lot of mystery around what happened with Kai and Ignite and the G League scenario, and I don't know the answers, all of that.
Right.
I don't know whether he had a genuine role in that team or whether he was going to be, a part-time player and get minutes where he could. So without knowing that, it's very harsh to judge his decision as right or wrong. Now, if you knew the answer to all of that, you could make obviously a better assessment. So I can only look at what I saw. And I saw Kai enjoying himself. I saw Kai proud to pull on, even though it was a practice uniform, proud to pull on a Filipino uniform. I saw him impressed in practice, and I saw how he felt. And I talked to him about it. I said, how do you feel about being one of the best players out on the court? You're only 18. And he said, Coach, it's a great feeling to be able to think that I can come back and contribute to the Gilas team. But I'm not just an 18-year-old who somewhere in the future might play. So I believe that what happened for him, whether there was something better or not, I don't know. But I believe that what happened for him was positive. And it was certainly positive for our bubble.
Given that, are there plans to bring back Kai immediately for the OQT or the FIBA Asia Cup for, this year?
Well, he has a willingness to come. And so I guess maybe that I'm the problem now, if you will, because my stance is the stance of a coach. And as a coach, I'm developing a team. And so to be part of that team, you have to be integrated into that team. And to be integrated into that team, you have to train with them. So, I have some conditions that say that if Kai comes back and plays for the team and doesn't train with us, I think he's going to go out on the court and look bad.
Right.
And I don't think that's fair to him. And I don't think that's fair to his prospects, because nobody should kid themselves. NBA coaches are watching everything that Kai does. And if he comes back here and plays, they're going to watch. They're going to see how he performs against Korea in the next level of the OQT. And for Kai to have the best experience here, he needs to be part of the training for, I would say no less than 3 weeks. So, this is a condition. And I'm not saying it is 3 weeks. It might be 4. It might be 2. And we have to continue to talk to Kai and his people, see what his schedule looks like, and find the best solution. But it really genuinely needs to be the best solution for Kai as a basketball player and for the team.
All right.
And that's the other side of it. He has to be integrated into the team, or else he's going to detract from their performance if he doesn't know the systems we're running. It's a long-winded explanation, but I think...
No, but it's clear. It's very clear, and I totally agree with you. I think in the end, it's still a team sport. It's still a team game, and in the end, as you've always said, it's not about who's the best player out there, but it's the best team that will play in the competitions that we represent. And talking about that, you've got 4 new guys that came from the special Gilas draft. And of course, you've got Ange Kwame, who is just about ready to play for Gilas as well. Just a signature is left before he's officially a naturalized player, or citizen rather. Can you tell us about the progress of Jordan Heading, Chadi Rangel, of course, JD Tungkap, and Will Navarro, as well as the role that you envision for Ange Kwame?
Yeah, Noli, I think this is an under-publicized issue that you're talking about. So I'll talk about the 4 guys. They're doing a really good job. They had a lot to learn, except for Will, who had been part of the previous bubbles. JD a little bit in the previous bubble too, but it is a process for them. And all I can say is they've come in, their work ethic is exemplary. They are getting better. Jordan is a talent, no question about that. Will, with his comfort with what we're doing, is an immediate contributor. JD has come in really, really good shape. We're all really impressed with JD's athleticism. And so he's fitting in and contributing. And he has a future because of the athlete and the size that he is at a point guard, combo guard position. Chadi Rangel was probably the outlier of the group that we brought in. And I brought Chadi in for very specific reasons. He's got a great work ethic. He's an extremely tough guy. But he's raw, talent-wise. But he has brought something into the bubble that really we had in the last bubble through Raul Soyud. He's brought in a banger's presence. He's brought in a real tough guy presence. Mm-hmm. And, you know, Chadi hasn't had much opportunity at MU and much opportunity at Alab. He played behind other players. So he's come in here to prove something. And, you know, what he might lack in efficiency, he's contributing in effort. And again, it's a process. And we're just real happy with all of them. Now with Anj, you ask about his role. Right. I just want everybody, when they think about a national team, to stop for a second. And I don't think this has always been done. And I want them to think rationally. Who do most coaches, when they look at assembling their national team, who do they select? Well, you can go to an all-star team. Say we could take any PBA player we wanted. We'd take the Roger Pogoys, we'd take the Paul Lees, we'd take the CJ Perez's, we'd take the Junmar Fajardo's. All of them are very, very productive offensive players. Now, they may be good defensive players in their own right, but all of them are sort of the stars of the offensive game, and they are our best players. Why then, in selecting a naturalized player, would we bring in a player who we need to put the ball in his hands all the time? If you understand my point.
Right, okay.
Why wouldn't we bring in a guy who's a great rebounder, a great rim protector, and becomes a defensive stalwart to play behind these excellent offensive players who are anywhere from good, or I should say mediocre, to good defensive players? Some of them can become very good, but they're really out there because they're good with the ball in their hand. They're good at executing offenses. Why would we bring in another guy who needs to dominate the basketball when you bring him in? I didn't see any sense in that. Yeah. So my assembly of potential naturalized players includes guys that we believe in as great rebounders, great locker room players, great rim protectors, and guys that will play with a lot of energy and be great teammates. I think Anj Kouame fits all of that, especially in the future.
I am totally sold. You know, I've seen Anj produce without having the ball in his hands. And that's something that I really enjoy with him when he was playing with the Ateneo, of course. And now I believe that is something that clearly the Gilas national team will be able to benefit from. You know, we're running out of time here, Coach Tab, but let me just ask, you know, one very, you know, a question that has been, of course, being asked by many. First is, who will be, have you decided on a coach for the team moving forward? And of course, when will this bubble end? What are the plans for you? When do you end it? When do you restart again, moving to the qualifiers?
Well, the plan is to end April 15th in this bubble. And, you know, we were going to kind of dovetail that into the PBA or an overseas venture for the rest of April and a part of May, and then come back and probably go in another bubble to do the final preparations for June. So again, that's all thrown out of whack now. And so we are talking about what we're going to do post this bubble. And I guess maybe our current best plan, which is like plan F, if you had A, B, C, D, and E, is take a break, stay on the guys, make sure they don't get out of shape or anything else like that. Maybe it's a 7-10 day break, and then maybe come back in the bubble again and
wow.
Get back to work.
Yeah.
In regards to the coaching position, let's just say we're all contributing at this point, and I'm telling the coaches that they all should be ready to be head coaches, and at some point I'll sit down with bosses, and we will make a decision on that, and we don't have any problem rotating that around. We think it's good for the players. You know, we think it's very good for the coaches to get head coaching experience. And you know, ultimately, when we know what our competitions are going to be, then we'll make a decision.
Excellent. Yan po mga kaibigan ang ating panayam with SVP Program Director Tab Baldwin. At ang dami niya nasabi, no? From about the program, and we certainly wish na yung mga bata, yung mga naglaro po dun sa loob ng bubble ay maging malusog at hindi po magka-problema. They're really giving all they've got, yung sakripisyo po binibigay nila para sa ating national team. At this point, mga kaibigan, hindi na tayo magpapatumpik-tumpik pa. Diretso na kagad tayo. Ang ating po susunod mga kausap ay ang Southeast Asian Games Gold Medalist sa Jiu-Jitsu noong 2019. But more importantly, she is a woman that has been fighting for sports and fighting for kids. Walang iba kundi ang very, very empowered woman sa buwan ng International Women's Month. Ito po ang aming panayam with Meggie Ochoa, our gold medalist sa Jiu-Jitsu. Tingin ko muna ang Jiu-Jitsu. How is the sport? How is the national team? Are you getting any opportunity at all na magkasama-sama at makapag-ensayo?
Sa ngayon po, especially right now, wala pa po kaming yung training na in-person. Sa ngayon, we're back to online training po. For a time, we were able to go to the gym and do strength and conditioning. Minsan nakakasabay din yung iba, pero lumipat na po ulit kami sa online dahil nga po dumadami na naman po yung cases. So wala pa pong nako-conduct na in-person na actual jiu-jitsu training, more on weights po, tsaka strength and conditioning.
Ang hirap kasi in the sport of jiu-jitsu, marami ang actual close range na hawakan, di ba? Grappling at yung paghila. So, do you foresee na ang jiu-jitsu makakabalik, in the midst of all of these cases sa pandemic? At if ever, ano kaya ang solusyon dyan? Is it really just the vaccine na magiging solusyon?
I think makakabalik naman po. It's just a question of when. Hindi po natin alam kung kailan, pero ang alam ko po yung sport po namin ay very flexible. Nag-a-adjust po yan sa mga sitwasyon. So, I wouldn't be surprised kung may mahanap po na solution in the future. Pero for now, I think yes, the vaccines would be a good thing. I think it would definitely minimize the risks kung nais po namin mag-train together again na contact sport. But we will see po. Ang alam ko rin po, may pinaplano pong something like a bubble training po.
Nice.
For the national team po. Pero wala pa pong anything set in stone.
Well, of course, ang IATF hindi pa rin pinahihintulutan ang contact sport. Kaya naman, and of course, amateur sports. No? So talagang napakahirap ng sitwasyon ng ating mga national athletes. Talking about our national athletes, alam natin na walang jiu-jitsu sa Olympics. Pero sa Southeast Asian Games, ito ay very much a part of. And ano bang plano ng jiu-jitsu ng federation in terms of preparing for the Southeast Asian Games this year?
Ayun na nga po, there are talks of having a bubble training pero wala pa rin pong concrete plans for now. So hindi ko pa rin po pwedeng mapag-usapan yon. But yes, definitely Jiu-Jitsu is going to be part of SEA Games. And magpapadala po tayo ng mga atleta doon. Ako po, hindi ko pa po alam kung nasa lineup ako dahil magkakaroon pa po kami ng playoffs. So kailangan namin ipaglaban po yung slot. Kasi po, ang alam ko po, 6 athletes lang po dahil there are only 6 weight classes both in the male and female. May 2 females and 4 males po who will be going.
But ikaw, you are still very active in the sport, Meggie.
Well, I am training with what I can, with the movements I can do here at home. And then, syempre po, araw-araw din po akong nag-strength and conditioning.
Wala bang parang yung ginagawa ni James De Los Santos sa Jiu-Jitsu na or online, virtual na Jiu-Jitsu na you're only judged based on movement? Meron bang ganyan na nangyari sa pandemya?
Actually, meron po. Right now, ongoing po, yung International Federation po namin, may hinold sila na e-duo tournament. So, duo is another form of jiu-jitsu. Hindi po siya yung ginagawa ko na discipline. So, may iba't ibang disiplina po sa loob ng jiu-jitsu. Yung ginagawa ko po na disiplina is in Niwaza. Yung duo po, yun po yung mas nakafocus po siya sa forms. Pero by partner pa rin po siya. So, kahit paano, contact pa rin siya. So, tayo, bilang Pilipinas, hindi pa rin po nakapag-participate doon.
Grabe. Ang hirap talaga, no? Pero, well, ating ipapanalangin na sana nga masimulan na yan because Jiu-Jitsu has been a rich source also of medals para sa ating bansa. You know, talking about the pandemic, alam ko, Meggie, that you have been very, very active, not on the mat, but obviously out of the mat, and marami kang nagawa. You have been branded as one of those women athletes na talaga napakalakas ang boses pagdating sa mga social issues. And one of these, of course, is the raising awareness for the social problem of increasing online sexual exploitation of children. Nagkaroon ka ng programa called Project SAFE, S-A-F-E, noong panahon ng pandemya. Can you tell us a little bit about that, Meggie? How has it affected the yung awareness ng mga tao sa OSEC?
Okay po. So yung Project Safe po, actually, project po yan ng Nazarene Compassionate Ministries. So kaya po SAFE kasi po ibig sabihin ay support and awareness to fight exploitation. Kasi nung dati po talagang napakarami pong apektado ng pagla-lockdown natin, nung ECQ pa po. So, maraming nawala ng trabaho and all that na kailangan na rin naman talagang gawin at that time. So, yung Project Safe po, nag-provide po siya ng immediate needs ng communities that are vulnerable to online sexual exploitation. Ito po yung kung saan po yung may mga naganap na rescues ng nakaraan. Pero hindi lang naman po ang pinrovide ay material needs, but also equipping the communities with the knowledge and awareness on the actual issue na ito po ay isang krimen, na anong consequences na pwedeng mangyari para talagang maging mulat po yung nandun po sa mga komunidad. At ang maganda naman pong nangyari, yung dun po sa communities kung saan po nag-raise ng awareness, may nag-raise po ng mga youth advocates in the areas na sila po yung magpapatuloy po ng laban. So, hindi lang naman po ako yung gumawa nun. Ang Nazarene Compassionate Ministries po yung isang partner po ng Fight to Protect. Talagang project po nila yon. At kami po, tinulungan namin sila mag-raise ng funds tsaka makapag-abot pa ng wider audience po in terms of raising awareness on the issue.
Nakakatuwa yung nabasa ko na meron kayo tinatawag na workout fundraiser. Ano ba
Yes,
yun?
po.
Paano yun? Just for people to understand kung ano yung mga programang ginagawa mo, Meggie. Ano yung workout fundraiser?
Yung ginawa po naming event, actually in-organize ko po ito kasama ng mga batchmates ko po nun sa Poveda, yung kung saan ako nag-high school, grade school at kinder. At kasama din po ng mga iba't ibang partners po. So, yung workout fundraiser po, yung title niya ay Sweat to Protect. So, parang medyo ginamit pa rin po yung Fight to Protect na pangalan. So, ang nangyari po, so gumawa kami ng fundraiser. Yung Project Safe po, yun ang project na pinupondohan po ng fundraiser na yun. So, I think it was a month and a half po nag-raise ng funds, but meron po siyang main event, which was yung Sweat to Protect event, kung saan throughout the day, yung mga iba't ibang batchmates ko po, nagkaroon po ng pa-workout. Kumbaga, parang libre naman po yung event, pero what the workout fundraiser did was pinromote po niya yung cause. So, mas lumawak din po yung reach. Marami pong, actually, ang maganda rin po doon, yung mismo mga batchmates po, hindi nila alam na nangyayari ito sa bansa natin. So, mismo sila po na-educate and yung communities din nila na-educate din po. So, ayun po yung naganap na event namin noong May ng 2020.
Ang galing, no? I'm very impressed. Talagang nakakatuwa na may mga grupo na ito ang tinututukan, no? Because even in the pandemic, and in fact, ngayong panahon ng lockdown, nagkaroon na statistics na yung increase in the offenses against children ay napakataas, no? It was 246%, and this mostly are sexual in nature, no? And so I understand na kayo nagkaroon ng dole out assistance to families who parte po yan ang panayam natin kay Meggie Ochoa, ang ating Jiu-Jitsu champion, although nauubusan tayo ng oras. So we will try to play back that entire interview sa ating pong susunod na episode sa susunod pong Sabado. Again, we thank Meggie for her time, and again, we're very proud of what she's done as not only for the sport but also for many, many exploited children. Bago po tayo magtapos, gusto ko lang magpasalamat sa lahat ng mga nagpadala ng kanilang opinion sa ating Pulso ng Bayan. Si Ighot J. Ann, sabi niya napapanahon na po siguro, natutukan naman ang 3x3. Congrats Philippines, galing ni Chico. Ang sabi niya, I guess, is Chico Lanete. At si Jim Pagia, sabi niya, same pa rin, dapat tumutok sa mapa 5-on-5 or 3x3 sa international basketball ng Pilipinas dahil hari pa rin ang basketball sa C-Nation ang Pinas, at both kailangan tutukan talaga. Marami pa po nagpadala dito, si Paul Reyes, si Jet Sanchez. Marami pong salamat sa inyong lahat. By the way, sa Black Saturday, next week po sa Holy Week, wala pong Power and Play na live. Babalik po ang live ng Power and Play sa April 10. Yan po ang ating schedule. Alright, at this point, paano? Tapos na naman tayo. Lagi po nating pinapalalahanan na kayong po lahat ay mag-ingat. Napakarami pong kaso, kahapon halos 10,000. Patuloy ang ating paghuhugas ng kamay, pagsusuot ng face mask at face shield, and of course yung pong social distancing. Huwag po tayong magpabaya. Hindi po biro ang ating pinagdadaanan sa kasalukuyan. At lagi po nating pinapalalahanan kayo na mag-ingat tuwing Sabado. At of course, bawal ang masungit. At sa lahat po ng ating gawain, ad maiorem Dei gloriam, all for the greater glory of God. Kami po ang 1PH Teleserbisyo para sa Pilipino. Happy Sports Weekend, mga kapatid!